Welcome to the McFeely Mess Podcast at Inforum.com. In-depth conversations and opinion covering a variety of topics from the world of news, sports, and more. Here's Mike McFeely.
All right, welcome to another episode of the McFeely Mess Podcast at Inforum.com. About 12 hours after the conclusion of one of the most remarkable political moments that I've seen in my lifetime, and I don't mean that in a positive way in any way, shape, or form. And I want to have somebody to talk about this morning on the pod who would lend some intelligence and credibility to the discussion. Although I'm not sure that for one half side of the debate last night, I'm not sure there was any intelligence or credibility. But Clay Jenkinson, our friend from Bismarck, North Dakota, is actually off the road from his travels around America as he listens to America. And he joins us today to talk about last night's presidential debate between Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump. Welcome back to North Dakota, my friend. You have been doing incredible work with your essays on the road. I enjoy reading your essays. You're a pretty good writer. You do good with words. You should do that.
Yeah, you should get me a gig with the forum group.
I'm trying about once every month, but
I know that. And what's their issue? You know, I write with complete sentences. I know how to spell, and I meet deadlines. And I guess
that would put you ahead of us, our stable of many of our conservative columnists. But go on.
I guess you're their liberal, and I'm not even a liberal, but I'm more on the liberal side than on the other side. So I'm back. It's hazy here in Bismarck, North Dakota. It's a fall day today. It's gray. I love the autumn on the Great Plains and in the upper Midwest. And so I was home. Therefore, I had access to a television last night. And of course, like everybody else, I tuned in to see what would happen in the great debate. I'll just say this much to get you started. You said it was one of those remarkable, not necessarily in a good way, things that you've seen. If we were a rational country, Donald Trump's political career would have ended last night. But we're not a rational country. And you know, in Wadena and Rothsay and Brainerd and Hibbing, well, maybe not Hibbing, but in most of the world of northern Minnesota and in most of North Dakota, the narrative is ABC teamed up against Trump. It was unfair. They didn't fact check her, that she had nothing new to say, and she has to own the fact that the Biden economy has not been good, and that she doesn't seem to understand that the border is really an existential crisis to this country. In other words, they will say that Trump won.
I find it interesting, the economic side of the argument, because I just heard a radio interview driving into my office here in downtown Fargo. And the interview was one of those, commercial, let's get a guy who buys advertising onto our station to talk about his business, which is fine. That's the way the business works. He was talking about how in North Dakota right now, he builds these big, huge sheds, the big, where you have a house inside the shed. And you can put all your farm equipment in there. Farm equipment now is so big that they need to build these, 80 by 100 sheds that are tall. And some guy wanted to put a full-size basketball court and a running track and a pickleball court. In addition to the 2,000 square foot living space, he was putting in the shed that he was building on his farm aside from the house he already owns and all the other buildings. I found it interesting that in a state where the economy is so good that you can build a $500,000 plus extra shed to store stuff, that the economy is just absolutely horrible right now in the state of North Dakota and in northern Minnesota. Something's not connecting there, Clay. And we're getting off the discussion about the debate. We'll get to it, but I bring that up often with my friends who tell me the economy is terrible. And I look around and go, but is it? Because right now we're at a lake home in Minnesota that's worth about $750,000. And, 10 feet of lakeshore is worth about $50,000 right in front of us. And you're telling me the economy is terrible right now. I don't get it.
I don't either. You and I are absolutely in agreement on this one. So, Harold Macmillan told the British people in 1960, "You've never had it so good," and that's true here. So, I may have told you this. I'll tell you very quickly. My friend Joey was here from Arkansas. He wanted to see the North Dakota, so we drove up to the McCluskey Canal and the old Garrison Diversion Project, and we came to this kind of semi-privatized campground, and there were 5 gleaming new pickups. Behind each one, a 250,000 or higher fifth wheel, and then jet skis and ATVs and so on. In other words, every one of there are 5 families there on the 4th of July. Every one of those families had about $600,000 of rolling stock there. And every pickup was new, extended, and each one had a "Don't Tread on Me" and a Trump flag up. And I thought, what do you have to complain about? I would give anything to have money sitting around so I could buy a Quonset to put in my toys, or to have a $350,000 fifth wheel. I mean, what's wrong with America in their mind? This thing is delivering them prosperity and stuff at an unprecedented level in the history of the world. The planet is dying because of it, but they should be happy as hogs, and they're not. They're like, "Oh, someone's going to take my gun away," or they're letting in the very people I had re-roof my house last week.
I don't want to go down that road any further.
But you agree, right? I mean, it's like, this is nuts.
I've seen the same thing at Devil's Lake when you pull into a public access on Devil's Lake. And I literally had one of my brothers-in-law say this summer, "How many millions of dollars in pickups and boats are in this public access right now?" And I said, "Yes, yep."
And they're all Trumpites. They're all like,
Yes,
"It's coming apart. We're a third world country. We're dying."
Yes, yep. So anyway, be that as it may, that's a topic for.
That tells you why the debate was a draw.
Yes, yep. What was the most remarkable part of the debate last night? Because I know what mine was, and there's a laundry list. I have a dozen things written down from watching the debate last night where I went, "What? Huh?" I know my remarkable moment where I screamed and my wife was watching it going, "What in the hell is he talking about?" What was yours?
I'm sure we agree on the top 5, but I'll tell you my number one was he's going to fix the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And so the natural question is, very well, then, how would you fix the Affordable Care Act? And he said, and changed the subject. And they said, "No, I mean, come on, here's your chance. You say you want to fix it. You say it could be better. It'll be the best system in the world. How would you fix it?" He said, we have some concepts. We're about to, one of these days we're going to unleash this. In other words, he has no idea whatsoever of how he would fix it because he doesn't care.
That's in my top 5. The exact quote, by the way, was, "I have concepts of a plan," which is what you do when your boss calls you in and says, "How's it going on that Jenkinson project?" And you go,
just about done.
Of a plan.
So
what I'm going to do with that.
I wish they could have said, "Well, we'll just sit here and tell you, name one thing that you're going to do. Just name one thing. Are you going to get the pharmaceutical companies to bring down costs? Are you going to get, as Doug Burgum said, do new software for Medicare? That'll fix it. Just give us one thing that you want to work on, and we'll call it even." But he couldn't, because he literally was deer in the headlights, had no plan. So give me yours.
I'm going to show you, and hopefully the audio comes over the speaker here. I'm on my laptop, but
all right.
This is also not surprising. Let's see if I can make it work.
They're eating the pets. They're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
They're eating the dogs and the cats. The thing about that one, Mike, is that they said, "How do you know?" Because the cop, the city says it ain't really happening. And he said, "I saw it on TV. I saw it on TV."
Yes. Which that's a whole nother subject to get into, that whatever he sees on TV is the truth. But that was the moment where I went, oh my God. And if you're listening to this and you don't know and maybe couldn't hear exactly what Trump was saying in the little video bit I was playing for Clay, that's the point where he said, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. And he was talking about a made up, completely fictitious conspiracy theory meme Facebook thing that the Republicans have come up with to scare people into the immigrant. Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are allegedly eating dogs and cats. And people are allegedly saying that their dogs and cats are being abducted by Haitian immigrants and they're eating them. There's no evidence. The people in Springfield, Ohio have said this is not happening. That hasn't deterred the MAGA wing, the nut jobs, from continuing to do this because it's racist against Haitians, and that feeds the base. And it's a way for the Republicans to say there are 20,000 immigrants who have invaded Springfield, Ohio, and they're eating dogs and cats. And so right now, in some place like Spearfish, South Dakota, there's a little old lady peeking out of her curtains of her house, wondering where the Haitians are coming to eat her cat Fluffy in Spearfish, South Dakota. That was the point where I went, oh my God, this guy's going to get 80 million votes or more in 5 weeks or whatever it is, and he might win. And he just said that.
Yeah, it's worse. He might be the next president of the United States.
Yes,
he might be the next president of the United States after that pathetic performance. Let me just turn the tables for a minute. I want to be fair. She did a good job. I thought she was masterful, actually, and her debate strategy worked, and she set traps, and he not only fell into them, he jumped into them and wallowed around in them. I mean, her strategy was stunning, and she did a superb job. However, first question was on the economy and how the Biden administration is perceived not to have delivered much on the economy. And instead of addressing the question, she went right into her, $25,000 subsidy for this and her $50,000 subsidy for that. I know a lot of moderate Republicans who are thinking, yeah, how are we going to pay for all of this? And she should have said the economy has had some troubles and we have to own that. She didn't. That was number one. Number two, on the Afghan situation, that is a good talking point for the Republicans, the 13 soldiers who died and so on. I wouldn't have brought it up if I were Trump, given what he did at Arlington, but still, she should have said right then, of course, it's a horrible thing. We regret that. Our hearts are damaged for the families. These things do happen, but they shouldn't happen, and it's a horrible thing, and we're not responsible alone, but it did happen on our watch, and I want to own that. And then finally on the immigrants, I wish somebody would say, Mike, hey, folks, we do need to control our borders, but we need immigrants. They do our landscaping. They do our roofing. They are essential to the economy. These people, many of them legal, some of them on temporary visas, frankly, some of them undocumented, are an essential cog to the American economy. We should own that. We need comprehensive immigration reform. Both sides have kind of kicked that can down the road, but we did have this proposal, and you killed it. But somebody needs to say not all immigrants are bad, and everyone's afraid to do that because it's like the third rail.
Okay, so you are falling into the same trap as our horrible national political media because you're treating this still as normal times. And in normal times, yes, it would be nice to have some substantive debate. But why are you holding Kamala Harris to one standard that she needs to talk about the issues? And on the other hand, Donald Trump said that people in Springfield, Ohio are eating pets. They are not. He said that January 6th was perfectly fine. I had nothing to do with it.
The perfect call.
He said he won the 2020 election by a lot. He literally said that last night. He said the Central Park 5, where he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times, was fine, even though he slandered 5 innocent people, black people, by the way, another racist thing he did. He said that was perfectly fine. He said that in Minnesota, we're killing babies after they're born. That's murder. That's not happening. That infanticide is not happening. He said that. He said everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. 80% of Democrats, he said, wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. They did not. He said Kamala Harris put out. That's words that came out of his mouth. Kamala Harris put out. I read that somewhere. That means that he called her a slut. Okay? That's what he's saying, is that she's loose sexually. She's a slut. He said that. He praised Viktor Orban when asked about
and who doesn't praise Viktor Orban?
Which world leader do you admire? He praised a dictator. He said, of course, had the concepts of a plan about the Affordable Care Act. He was asked directly, do you hope that Ukraine wins its war against Russia? He would not commit to that. So all of that's just a partial list. So why do we insist on holding Kamala Harris? Well, she needs to talk about policy. She needs to be more serious.
Mike.
If he's going to do that, then fuck him. Then she should do what she did last night, and just bait him into being an idiot, which he is.
All right, so let me respond, and please, calm down. Number one, she's debating Bozo the clown, so that, of course, it's the crap that comes out of his mouth. And you're right, we're used to it. And so we're not as alarmed by it as we should be. So, of course. However, here's the important point. If she were a little more candid about these things, she's she has a chance to say, you Republicans, you conservatives can live with me because I can think on my feet. I can acknowledge things. I can own our own mistakes. I'm a big enough person not to just be on the defensive the whole time. I think she had a chance there, and maybe she ducked it a little. So I do think that this was a slightly lost opportunity for her. On the other hand, I give her a very, very high marks for that debate. And for Trump to say, the biggest whopper of the evening, and there were lots of them, the biggest whopper was saying that if he had been president, there would be no Middle Eastern war and that Russia would never have invaded Ukraine. And you think, first of all, do you think that America is that important that our just saying we don't want a war in the Middle East will stop one? Because that flies in the face of 100 years, 1,000 years of Middle Eastern wars. And secondly, the only deal that Trump can make with the Ukraine war is essentially to force a truce, which I doubt that he could do, and then Russia keeps 38% of Ukraine. In other words, saying that, she should have said, well, someone should say, are you kidding? You think that if you were president, Putin, who wants to restore the Russian Empire, would have stopped as a personal favor to you? It's insane. So I'll grant you that, Mike, that stuff that comes out of his mouth is both, it shows a profound ignorance of human history and the world situation, number one. It shows an unbelievable narcissism that somehow he embodies some strength that no one would dare mess with. Those are just insane, irresponsible, profoundly muddled things that come out of his mouth. I don't really care about the dogs and cats of Springfield, Ohio. What he said was more offensive to me, that 20,000 people have invaded Springfield and the town's ruined. I doubt that the mayor and the city council and the newspaper in Springfield say the town is ruined. So that kind of alarmism that the border is open and they're all rapists and they're going to take your black jobs, as he likes to say. He almost said it last night, and then you saw him catch himself. That stuff is literally insane. And so what I don't get is why you and I both have MAGA friends. Why don't they say, we're going to vote for him anyway because we just like to mess with you guys. We just like to give it to the libs. It's a 401k thing. He'll be better for my portfolio. Why can't they say this guy is nearly a human disaster, but we're voting for him anyway?
Correct. And that opens up another line of conversation about the debate last night and why, again, the national political media are failing us is that there are no signs that Donald Trump has the cognitive abilities at age 78, going on older than that, to be president of the United States. And yet, I mean, last night was a clear example. I mean, his brain was muddled. He got so upset and was so angry at Kamala Harris for pushing back at him that, I mean, like somebody on Twitter last night said, if that was your uncle at Thanksgiving, you would sit down with him and go, Unc, I think it's time that we take the car keys away and we discuss going into a home because
it's memory care unit time.
Yes. And yet that's not being talked about because Kamala Harris didn't talk about her details on the economy. And I understand where you're coming from. I understand and respect your opinion on it, but that's not where we are. That's just not where we are. That's where we were 15 years ago. We're not there anymore. Okay. And so somebody needs to say that Donald Trump is not qualified to be president of the United States, no matter what she's saying.
You and I have been saying that for 8 or 9 years, and the blowback has been kind of fun. I think there's Trump fatigue. I think that when she says it's the same old playbook, I think lots of Trump supporters do understand that it's the same old playbook. I think when she said that your rallies are not what they once were, sir, people are walking out. You could see he was hurt. It hurt his feelings, and I wish that we had like a Looney Tunes cartoon where the smoke would be coming out of his ears and he'd be trembling because you could see that he was really damaged by the stuff that she was saying, and there was no way he could just shout her down. And then he did exactly what the rules didn't allow. He interrupted and got the mic back. He got 5 minutes more time than she did because he demanded it. And then the one time when she said, hey, I can't let this go, they stopped her. They let him rewrite the rules to a certain degree because they can't stop this guy. And yet when she finally said, I got to respond to that, it's no, we must move on. And then she complied. And so, he is coming apart, I think. I think the wheels are coming off. I think he's mentally impaired. I think that he's an infant, and that and all you have to do is talk about the size of his crowd, his wealth, the $400 million. All you need to do, he's like Pavlov's dog. All you need to do is set up one of the 10 ways to get to Trump, and he takes the bait every time. But I have one comment and a question for you. The comment is the needle almost certainly didn't move last night, in spite of the fact that if anyone were watching for Jupiter, they'd say, who's this bozo the clown that wants to be the president of the United States? But here's my question, because every time I do anything that you regard as moral equivalency, you get kind of hissy fitty.
That hurts my feelings.
Yeah, I can see it. It seems coming out of your ears, but it's true. Whenever I say like she should have done this or they say no because of the situation. I just don't see the world that way. But here's my question: is there a Kennedy-esque, Reagan-esque kind of figure? There isn't one, but is there? Could it be that someone came along now who could speak, who had wide empathy, who had good policy responses, who could bring back a kind of a bipartisan coalition and win the presidency? Or is that just over now?
We'll learn that, I think, once Trump is out of the picture, if he's ever out of the picture. Other than that, we're not going to know because nobody on the Republican side is going to be honest enough to say, I can work with Democrats. I'm moderate. Trumpism is, I agree with some of what he's been talking about, but not all of it. And so that's just not going to happen from that side of the aisle. And I think Democrats now have learned that when they punch you, you punch back. And that's, I think, the difference between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden is that she's realized it does no good to try to pacify MAGA. I'm just going to forget them, and I'm going to concentrate on the 3% of America that says they're undecided and keep leaning into what I stand for. And so, no, to answer your question, I don't believe that that's going to happen anytime soon. And I don't know that Republicans have that person, and Democrats feel right now they don't need that person.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden has been, to a certain degree, that person. And that's one reason why he got the things done that he's gotten done, which is a pretty impressive legislative record. I don't think she's quite wired that way. And I think for reasons that you say, I think that she was very, very well trained. Two quick questions. Number one, do you think that Trump this morning thinks, yeah, I didn't do very well. I screwed that up?
No, he does not have that capability.
All right, me either. But I believe that sometime between midnight and 4 a.m. on certain nights of the year, Trump looks in a kind of metaphoric mirror and says, how'd this happen to me? But I think you don't want to go there. The second question is your MAGA pals, your Wadena pals, those guys. Do you think that people that love Trump and are certainly going to vote for him also this morning thought, he's not quite. He's lost a lot of ground here.
If they watch the debate, which I don't know how many MAGA people would watch the debate because it was on ABC and it's just not where they are. I think it's what you said earlier, that even if they would admit to themselves that he's a train wreck, that it's way more important for them to do this to you and I. And
Mike is making a rude gesture into the Zoom.
Well, I dropped a word earlier that you were clearly offended by.
I wasn't offended by it. It was just a little.
You made that face.
I did. I thought we can talk that way because I've got a lot of F-bombs ready right at the back of my throat here.
Well, I'll wait to see how the bosses react if they listen to this, which I don't think they do. So that's why I don't
think anyone listens. That's the fun of it.
Oh, no. I get the numbers. Lots of people listen to it. They do.
They love us because, I'm the only person who stands up to you who's basically 100% in agreement with you.
Yep, exactly. Yep, you're exactly right. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that you actually agree with me, but you're not going to let me have, what was the words you used? Oh, yeah,
hissy fit.
Hissy fit. You're not going to let me have a hissy fit.
Your voice rises and you start to rave, and you're like John Jenkler, remember from South Dakota when he'd be on like Nightline, and they couldn't keep him on camera because he was swaying like.
Now you're comparing me to
Stevie Wonder.
What's happening here?
What year am I in? But so let me ask you a different kind of question. The narrative that's going to come out of the right is going to be ABC basically attacked our man because that's what the liberal media does. In other words, they
already were saying that. They've already said it.
You're complaining that the media does too much moral equivalency and has a double standard and gives him a safe passage through some of the crazy stuff that comes out of his mouth. They're saying that the liberal media set this whole thing up to help destroy him and to destroy America.
Yes. Yep. But both things can believe one thing. I can believe another. I mean, I don't know what if anybody objectively looks at, and our national political media, Politico, the Washington Post, New York Times, the reporters are still living in a world where you put a headline that says, in fiery debate, Trump, Harris clash.
Pair off.
Whereas the rest of America, or much of the rest of America, are doing this morning what you and I are doing, going, what? He was talking about people eating pets. For God, he's talking. I mean, and so I know that you're shaking your head, giving me the Oxford Clay look.
Oh, that is not an Oxford look. That's a rational human being look. So the one thing I'll agree with is that if you want to pick on anyone in the world, the easiest people in the world to pick on are the Haitians. That's a free ride. because we know that, and there's a long, interesting history, but we know that Haiti is an absolute disaster. It's economically disastrous. It's politically disastrous. It's post-colonial disastrous. The Haiti is truly one of the, it's like Calcutta. It's one of the hellholes of the world. And so you get a free ride if you want to pick on Haiti. Now, I don't even doubt that someone's dog wound up in a walk, but to make it seem as if this is their MO, that they're roaming the streets at night looking for, as you say, Fluffy. I think, if you say Fluffy, then we all have to side with you, right? Apparently you didn't go to the Christie Nome School of Dog Management.
Hey,
she could have been VP.
Yeah, think about that. What about that team? How she shoots them. Trump accuses others of eating them. It would have been just a glorious ticket.
What she could do is say, at 2 p.m. today, I'm going to dispatch a few dogs. If you're Haitians in Sioux Falls, line up, and that you can have them right there.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to wrap it up, and I need to ask you this. So
we can't wrap up. We're just getting rolling. I'm getting under your skin. You're gonna drop me now because I've been messing with you today.
No. I love it.
I appeal to the listeners. Who's right, McFeely or me? That's what I just appeal. Send in your vote.
I own the microphone, so I'm always right. But that's a lesson I learned in radio.
I've learned that myself.
Yes. Shortly after the debate ended last night, your favorite artist, Taylor Swift, endorsed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Yes.
You might chuckle, but you have a youngish daughter.
She saw Taylor Swift in London last month. I cut her off economically.
My daughter and wife are flying to Vancouver in December to see Taylor Swift in concert. My daughter.
You think that'll make a difference? I mean, what a stunning photograph, by the way.
And that's where I'm going. Does that make a difference? Dana Bash on CNN was giddy about this and thought it was going to be a huge deal. What's his name? Chris Wallace was scoffing at her, trying to get the conversation back on the rails, like you, talking about policy and economic plans and
more giveaways.
Does Taylor Swift make a difference?
Yes, because she's the most popular. She's Paul McCartney now. She's the Rolling Stones now. She is the world's pop icon. And it was a beautiful statement. I mean, I don't know if she wrote it or if her people wrote it, but it was stunningly intelligent, saying you make up your own mind. I watched the whole debate. It was a brilliant stroke, and she released it at absolutely the perfect time. I don't think it matters very much. It might matter a little, Mike, but I hate, I'm kind of with Chris Wallace, like, okay, here we are, so now what? So, Fran Tarkenton's going to come out for Trump. I find that a little distasteful, but I do get the Taylor Swift phenomenon. My mouth dropped when my daughter, who has a PhD from Oxford, said she was going to spend 200 guineas to go to London to watch what is essentially an overproduced spectacle. But if the meme had gone out earlier, I think Trump would have said, "Man, I'd like to date her."
Good Lord.
He did. He said he would have dated his daughter if she were not his daughter.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
What a train wreck this man is now.
You are much, much older than I am.
Yes, at least by months.
Yes. I have a daughter who's still 23 years old.
Mine is 30.
And so I'm more in the Taylor Swift know than you are.
But you're not going to Vancouver.
I am not. I'm not.
You're just bankrolling it.
I'm helping out with the finances. Let's put it that way. But in this election, it might matter, and maybe I'm just wish casting here. It might matter more than you, old man, think.
Wow.
Because
now you're going Trump on me. What else you got?
No. Because the margins are going to be so narrow in some of these states that if Taylor Swift can get 5,000 21-year-old women in Pennsylvania, hell, 1,000 21-year-old women in Pennsylvania to get out and vote on November 5th, the margins might be that narrow that it might make a difference. Young people don't vote. You know that. They just don't vote. You and I did because we're weird. But young people generally don't vote. If Taylor Swift with whatever 250 million Instagram followers can convince 2,000 kids in Wisconsin to vote, that's really important in this election. It wouldn't have mattered in 2008 or 1984 or 1960. Well, 68 would have 64. It wouldn't have mattered. It might matter this year. That's my wish casting on Taylor Swift.
I think you're right. I actually do think you're right. So to be serious for a moment, I think that it was a brilliant moment. It was extraordinarily intelligent post with a stunning photograph and a childless Catwoman echo. Brilliant. The timing, the prose, the statement it was extremely well crafted, and I think it will make a difference, Mike. I think it will make a significant difference because I think not just those 12-year-olds, in our case, a 23 and a 30-year-old, still going to Taylor Swift concerts, but they will tell their dads or their parents, "Hey, Taylor says," and that will make a difference, I think, and it might turn the election. On the other hand, if you are listening to Fox this morning, they're saying, "Yeah, but we have Dennis Quaid."
They have Lee Greenwood. Proud to be an American.
I've loved that song, even though it's a moronic song. But I have to admit, I'm a sucker for "God Bless the USA." Every time I hear it, I almost stand up. But Lee is looking a little long in the tooth. I saw him at the Republican National Convention between Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off and the man who slapped his wife in an elevator endorsing Trump. All we needed was Mr. Pillow. And by the way, Mr. Pillow put out a special ear thing you can buy, a Mr. Pillow ear accessory. I ordered 5,000 of them to give away to all my friends. So don't just say, "Oh, the Democrats have Taylor Swift and Beyonce." They have Dennis Quaid and Mr. Pillow and Hulk.
Well, yes, and Lee Greenwood and Kid Rock and John Voight. And
where's Charlton Heston when you need him?
Well, he's dead, but he is for sure in Donald Trump's corner.
Are you? Let me ask you a couple. I know we have to go. Let me ask you a couple quick questions. Are you more cheerful? If you had to say today, who wins the election? Who would you say?
Donald Trump. Donald Trump. I still believe that this is such a weird election. The polls are not moving as strongly or quickly as I thought they would. People still don't necessarily trust or know, maybe more importantly, know Kamala Harris. And this country is still has a large percentage of the population is racist, and a large percentage of the population is harbors deep misogyny. I overheard a conversation the other day. I was sitting somewhere having a sandwich or a beer or something, and my ears are always open because that's what we do. Guys like you and I like to hear other conversations in places where I wouldn't really open my mouth if I was asked to, because I value my teeth and my nose not being broken. But there was a commercial or something came on TV of Kamala Harris, and a guy at the table next to me said, "We're not really going to elect this dumb woman, are we?" And I just went, so there are still a portion of America, guys our age and older, who view her not as a U.S. Senator, Vice President, U.S.
Attorney General, District Attorney. Yeah.
They view her as a dumb woman.
All right. So this used to be the rap on her. And I was part of this, and I think maybe you have been at times too. People thought she was girly, all that giggling and all that, that she's girly, that she's a leftist, that she's inarticulate, and in a like a serious interview, she kind of breaks down into what now people are loving to call word salad. I think she refuted all of that really well last night. I thought she was extraordinarily articulate. There were only in 90 minutes 3 or 4 sentences that kind of broke down, which would happen to any one of us over that kind of a period, whereas Trump could barely get a grammatical sentence out of his mouth. She's certainly more centrist as she's presenting herself than she was in 2019. I think that I wish I could advise her on a few of these things. On fracking, for example, the answer is fracking is different in different places. If the shale is only 1,000 feet under the ground, you need to think about that. If it's, as in North Dakota, if it's 13,000 feet under the ground, it's not the same environmental threat that it is in a place like Pennsylvania or New York. And she could have said, that since we all believe in states' rights, each state should decide for itself, as New York has done, whether it wants to permit fracking. I think that the view that she's changed her mind could be a serious talking point for the Republicans. I don't think they've landed that blow very well. But the notion that she's some sort of a girly giggler, I'm sure that the far right was reinforced by that last night because they're just living in myth. But I think she answered a lot of questions, don't you, about her capacity on her feet? I do. And that was one of the things that was being talked about post-debate last night in a more serious manner, which was that she looked the part last night, that she had to prove to America that she at least looked the part. And while Trump looked like a raving lunatic that she baited him into, by the way, as you've mentioned brilliantly, and he kept, I would love to go fishing with Kamala Harris. I love to fish because clearly you would catch your limit plus and throw back the extras, of course, because she was an expert last night at throwing bait in the water and having him snap it up and get hooked and flop and flail like a crappie in the summertime. But she looked the part. She kind of chuckled and laughed and sort of made some facial expressions that were like, whoa, well, and which is just fine. And guys that don't like that just aren't going to like that. You live here too. You understand what's going on. So it's racist, it's misogynist. It's, it's an old playbook. And what it really comes down to is this, I think, that there is a substantial portion of America, white males like us and some white females, but I'm older than you, as you love to point out, but older white males, especially those that are not very highly post-high school educated, feel that the country is being taken from them by forces that they don't like, that the browning of America, that women are too prominent now, that the replacement theories that white people are going to be replaced by brown people, that they're going to take our guns away, that they want abortion after birth. This playbook works for about 40 million Americans, and most of those Americans are less well educated. They are angry, and they're frightened. And Trump has played brilliantly into that demographic. And I don't think that the needle moves one iota for them, no matter how buffoonish he is. What do you think? Absolutely. Yes. And I would say, even going beyond what you said, which was all accurate, there's also a piece of that part of America that believes that the brown people and women are getting things that they're not getting, that America has decided to advance brown people ahead of white people by giving them things, whether it's a free cell phone or food stamps or whatever thing they want to make up. And that really pisses them off, that they think that here I am in Fingal, North Dakota, and I'm scraping to get by. And by God, there's some you-know-what in St. Louis, Missouri, who is getting everything handed to him while I'm living in the crap back here. This guy's driving a Mercedes because the government gave it to him. And that really pisses these guys off. And it's not true. And you could also make the statement that the farmers in North Dakota and the oil producers in North Dakota have been the recipient of way more government handouts and freebies than some guy in St. Louis, Missouri. But that really, really gets under their skin, that they think that
somebody else, especially somebody else who is dark-skinned, is getting something that they're not.
Somebody else who is brown, who is not a certified American, and they, of course, even want to get rid of birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment. But somebody who doesn't deserve it is getting a cell phone, or as they like to say, staying in our finest five-star hotels in Manhattan and Los Angeles, that we're just doing handout after handout. We're giving them driver's licenses, they're voting. And, what all that is an updated version of Ronald Reagan's famous trope about the welfare queen who was just working the system and having children just to work the system. That worked well for him in the 1970s and 80s. And today's version of it is, and I hear this all the time, go to a rodeo, you hear, oh, they're giving them cell phones. Oh, they're putting them up in the best hotels. I can't afford to stay in one of those hotels in Seattle or San Francisco. They've wrecked the country. And, but here's the part that I just am flabbergasted by, because, I'm a historian. And what I've learned from Thomas Jefferson is that you have to sing the song of America to be the president of the United States. So Reagan said it's morning in America again. And in 2016, when Trump said, let's make America great again, there's a racist undertone to that. But it was a voice of optimism. We could do this. Now he's like, we're a third world country. We're destroyed. There's carnage. His view, his narrative about America is so bleak and so dark, Mike, that I would think that almost anyone would say, like to their husband or wife, do you think we're in steep decline? Do you think America's ruined? I guess we should put our $350,000 fifth wheel in storage and get the boat out of the lake so that we can have our 3-car garage, which we use as a storage facility, and our annual vacations to NASCAR in Las Vegas. That's all, they're taking that away from us. There's some sort of cognitive dissonance that people who are doing extremely well, better than human beings have done in the history of the planet, are persuaded that the country's dying.
That's where we started. Me talking about the $500,000, $750,000 houses or shed houses or whatever.
I want one of them, by the way. I would, if I had $1 million, I'd have one.
You have lots of millions of dollars. That's the way that historians are notably well paid in this country.
So pickleball. Let's close with pickleball. Have you played it?
No. Why would I want to have knee surgery? I don't need to blow my knees out.
So I'm anti pickleball, but as you know, I'm kind of anti lots of things.
Yes.
I think pickleball, and now, there are pickleball scandals too. There's that pickleball guy in New Jersey who, was defrauded people of their life savings. And I was in Vail the other day, one of the most privileged places on earth. And the most anger that they've had at a city commission meeting for like decades was over pickleball. And guess why? Yes. Not in my backyard. I don't want to hear that.
Yep.
It's about the noise. I said, is it because pickleball is debased? No, it's about the noise. And so
they also don't want the lights. They don't want the lights on after dark because all these people play pickleball all hours of the day.
These geezers out pickleballing. I think it should be an Olympic sport myself. Along with breakdancing.
We're coming off the rails here.
I'm just saying that Donald Trump is broken down, deeply diminished, desperate, frightened, and we haven't mentioned yet, almost certainly going to prison if he doesn't win, and maybe if he does later, if he lives, that he is a deeply diminished human being, even from 2020 and certainly from 2016, and that there was a novelty factor back then, and he was going to maybe shake up the world. Well, he didn't really shake up the world. He just made it crazy. And now I think that even his supporters came away from last night with a little bit of an uneasy feeling. What do you think?
I think that they support him and will support him until the ends of the earth and until he is gone from this earth, that he will always have an influence over the Republican Party, because the Kelly Armstrongs of the world and the Doug Burgums of the world and the John Hovens of the world are too afraid.
Yes.
To say anything, and as long as he's alive, he will have an influence on them. And yes. with that, we need to end, because I'm way over, and I need to go take my drugs, my anti-hissy fit drugs now.
Wow, I've hurt your feelings.
You have.
I've hurt your feelings. How could I hurt your feelings? You're raving, and I'm trying to talk you off the ledge, and now you're going to be hold a grudge. Now you're calling me old. Here we go.
I hold grudges for a long time.
I love talking with you, and I think you love it, frankly, because we have a good time when we talk about these things, and it doesn't have to be end of the universe apocalyptic talk all the time. We can have fun with this, can't we?
We can, and we'll do it soon in the future when you're back from your fancy boy tours of England and London and all of that stuff.
I will be more careful in the future not to ruffle the McFeely feathers. I love you and I respect you. I'm not, what kind of gift can I send you?
Okay. Bye, Clay. Thank you.
I love everyone. And everyone who's listening should ask themselves some tough questions right now.
This has been the McFeely Mess Podcast, the Hissy Fit edition at inforum.com. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the McFeely Mess Podcast at inforum.com. For more podcasts and columns, head to inforum.com and search Mike McFeely